Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, I want to share with you a little revelation I've had recently, like a little life perspective shift that I've made because I found this quote and it really moved me, and I've started seeing like other messaging aligned with this quote that I think is a really helpful way of looking at your life if you're somebody like me who often feels like you're having existential crises about what you're doing with your life and wanting to be living your purpose, finding your purpose, living a meaningful life, knowing that you only have like X amount of years left on earth, assuming you live that long. I think too much about that kind of stuff, but if you're anything like me, then this should be helpful. So basically, I came across this quote from, apparently Carl Jung said this, although I couldn't really find the source. Assuming he said it, he said, "Life really begins at 40. Up until then, you are just doing research." And when I read this, it really hit me because I'm 30 years old and I've always had in my mind, like, by the time I'm 30, I want to do this and this. I want to like write a book. I want to, like, 30 to me was always kind of that age that I randomly set in my head of like, this is when I should really be like living my life. Like your 20s are kind of for having experiences, gathering information, and 30 is when you should have it all figured out and you should just be doing it. Well, I like this quote because he's saying life begins at 40. Up until then, you're just doing research. And it doesn't mean that we're just like bumping it up another 10 years, but I really think there's like a mindset shift if you really try to understand like what he's saying here and try to live that way. So like, assuming life begins at 40, how does that change how I live my life right now? So like, I've been, just to give an example, like lately I've been thinking so much about like, what am I doing next in life? Like, what is my next job gonna be? I really want it to be like the thing, you know? Like I want to find what it is that I love, find what I'm passionate about. I want to be doing that next in life because I'm already 30 and I should have it figured out by now and blah, blah, blah. But instead of thinking about it as like, I need to find the thing or the job and I need to be doing that, what if I just saw it as right now, this is the valuable time in my life that I can use to be building skills in the long term so that eventually I'll get to that point where I'm doing work that I love. But that point requires you to like have skills up until then. So just to get a little more specific, like right now I'm living in France, and one of the main reasons I came here was to improve my French, work on some personal projects, and also work. I am working here, but it's not full time. So I do have time to do other things. And I found myself lately like spinning my wheels thinking, oh, what am I doing next? I need to like figure out what I'm doing. Oh my God. But then I read this quote and I was like, I don't need to have it all figured out right now. I came here to improve my French. So why don't I just like relax a little bit and focus on studying French, focus on doing what I came here for. And these skills that I'm learning are invaluable for the future, for when I do get to that point where I can put them into practice. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to have it all figured out right now. And to just give a little more like inspiration on this same topic, the same message here, you might have seen this thing on the internet that kind of lists famous people who didn't really get started until later in life. And I'm just gonna list some of them here. So Julia Child didn't publish her first cookbook until she was 50, and she became a TV personality afterwards. Vera Wang designed her first wedding dress at age 40. Stan Lee, the co-creator of Marvel superheroes like Spider-Man and X-Men, didn't achieve major success in comics until his late 30s, early 40s. Toni Morrison, the celebrated author, she published her first novel at age 39, and she won the Nobel Prize for Literature at 62. Samuel L. Jackson got his breakout role in Pulp Fiction at age 46, despite acting for years before that. That's the key. Despite acting for years before that, it takes years to build up your skills, to get ready for that moment or that time in your life when you're really like feeling like you're doing the thing that you've always wanted to do. It takes time. And just to give a little more like inspiration around why age doesn't matter. Like, I know I'm talking a lot about like, oh, I'm 30 and blah, blah, like I know I'm young, assuming I live to an average lifespan, knock on wood. I don't know when I'm gonna die. Hopefully I live a good amount of time on this earth, but the truth is that none of us know, unfortunately. Although it's probably for the best because I don't think I would want to actually know. Anyway, I digress. So I also found something that said I posted this on X, by the way. I'm still not used to calling it X rather than Twitter. Because do I say I posted this on my X? Because remember when we said like I posted it on my Twitter? I reposted something on X that I saw about a neuroscientist who worked until she was 103 years old. She won a Nobel Prize at 77, and she became a senator at age 92. And she stayed mentally sharp into her 100s. And this was a really cool post. I highly encourage you to check it out if you haven't seen it, because the post that I reposted shares like life tips for how to stay mentally sharp into your 100s. And when she was 103, she said, "I have a higher mental capacity today than when I was 20, thanks to the accumulation of experiences." So again, this is to say that like, I feel like a lot of us think that life starts ending when we get to be like 80, 90, 100. Like we just assume that like when we're older, that's like retirement. Like we stop engaging with the world and we start to just kind of be in this like end of life stage where we're not really doing anything. So that makes it feel like we have to get it all figured out when we're like 30 or 40. But that's just not the truth. Like with all these examples, a lot of famous people it didn't work out that way. And it's probably because they spent years building up to that. Like Julia Child spent years cooking and honing her craft before she could publish that book that became such a success. It's funny because this theme has been coming up in like so many different ways in my life. To give another example, I've been rereading the book Eat, Pray, Love. It's not exactly my favorite book, to be honest. Like I read it years ago, but I've just been rereading it because I wanted some inspiration for writing. And I love Liz Gilbert's writing style. She has amazing books. This one isn't necessarily the best, but obviously it's super popular. And one thing that stood out to me, this is the 10th anniversary edition. So she writes a little note in the beginning of this, reflecting on her perspective 10 years after writing Eat, Pray, Love. And one thing that she said, one thing that really struck me about the person who wrote Eat, Pray, Love was that she apparently felt so freaking old. This was the biggest surprise for me, how many times I use the word old in these pages in referring to myself. And that's something that I've noticed too. Like, as I'm reading it, she keeps referring to herself as old. And she said, to put things into perspective, folks, I was only 34 years old at the time of this adventure. She was 34 when she was doing this whole trip that led to her writing this book. She said, 34 feels like infancy to me now, but apparently I felt ancient back then. This is a real point of cognitive dissonance because now I'm nearly 46 and I do not feel old in the least. I ran 5 miles this morning and nothing hurts, blah, blah, blah. She said, I sure did feel old back then. And then she goes on to explain like things that were kind of holding her, like this perspective she had that she was so old when she was only 34. It was holding her back from doing certain things. She was like, I felt like I was too old to be traveling with a backpack. I felt like I was too old for my cute little Swedish friend. I felt like I was too old to be attracted to this young Italian guy. Like, she felt so old. And her feeling that way and having that perspective kind of took some enjoyment out of her present moment. It took some enjoyment out of what she was trying to do and enjoy. And she also says, I do not believe we were put here on earth to feel sick and weary and sad forever. I do not believe we were put here to grow old when we are still young. This is the message, I think, that made Eat, Pray, Love resonate so deeply with so many women. It's the message that if your life has become a trash compactor, then you're allowed to try to escape that trash compactor, whatever it takes. So Liz Gilbert took this trip when she was 34 and she published the book when she was 37. And even if she never published this book, because that's still pretty young, she was only 37 and this book became huge and it became a movie and all this stuff. But she's written so many good books, so many amazing books since then. And I think the books she writes now are so much better and so much stronger than Eat, Pray, Love. But how did she get here? She didn't just wake up one day when she was 35 and become like an amazing novelist. She's been honing her craft. She's been strengthening these skills for years and for decades that gets her to this point where now she's living an amazing life, doing what she loves, making good income with it. But she didn't get there overnight. And I guess that's my message here. It's that like, I've been having this perspective that like, oh my God, I'm 30, I should have it all figured out. I should be stepping into like a job where I'm finally doing the thing. But I'm not realizing that like, in order to be doing the thing, I need to be honing my skills. I need to be building it over time so that one day, whether I'm 50 or 60 or 70, or in the neuroscientist's case, 92, I'll be ready to finally be doing whatever it is that I love. And I think the truth is that we don't actually ever get to a point of feeling like everything's complete and we're satisfied. Like, I think a natural part of the human condition is that we are kind of wired to always be striving for the next thing. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I do think ultimately it's a balance between improving ourselves, working on ourselves, building our skills, pursuing what it is that we want to be doing, but also recognizing that all of our joy really comes in the present moment, because the present moment really is all that exists. So it's a balance between striving and also enjoying the present moment. And if you've watched any of my other videos, the key to like law of attraction and energy and everything is that we kind of want to be in an energy of feeling as if we already have what it is that we want in order to attract that into our lives. But I think it's possible to be building those skills and doing those things that are going to set us up for success in the future, while also being in a state of gratitude for what it is we're able to do right now. And then the last thing I want to say here is that when we're saying like life begins at 40, or you can accomplish big things later in life, you can get started later in life, it doesn't mean that right now we're just sitting around like not doing anything, expecting that one day we'll get to that point. To the contrary, it's saying that like right now is the time we can be building these valuable skills that will set us up for success in the future. That's kind of what my message is here. But I also want to say that that doesn't mean you can't start the thing right now. Like, if you feel like you don't have the skills and you feel like, oh, I just need to build up the skills, it doesn't mean you can't actually do the thing. Like, if you think, oh, I need to hone my craft of writing before I publish a book. No, I would encourage you to learn that craft by publishing a book. Like, do the thing. If you feel like you need to wait until you have certain skills before you start a certain job, again, I would encourage you to just do that job, because you learn by doing. And the sooner you can get started and do that thing that you want to do, the sooner you can become good at it. So just to wrap things up here, if you feel stressed about not being where you want to be in life, just know that you can use this valuable time right now to build the skills that will get you there. And this can mean doing the thing right now. It can mean publishing the book. It can mean doing that job you've been wanting to do. But just know that it'll probably take time for you to become really good at it, to the point that you'll be at the point where you want to be. Like, whether it's making an income with it or being an expert at it or whatever, all of that stuff takes time. So I hope that this video made sense. I hope it was helpful in some way. I know that these words that I read about life beginning at 40 really were encouraging to me. It really did help me shift my perspective of everything a little bit. And if it did for you, let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear what you think about this topic, and go ahead and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, so that you can see future videos. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.